In a somewhat woeful effort to look as sporty as Jess, I've donned the North Face t-shirt, and I've just been down actually at the Victoria Street basketball court for hooping, as we say. Now that I'm an avid basketball card collector, I decided to try and get on the court and throw down a few hoops, and I'm really, really bad at it, but I get sort of cheered on. It's a really cool little community down there, and come back and have a cold shower, and it breaks the day up nicely. So, Jess, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm doing better than you. I'm a little sweaty.
That's all right. Well, no one can feel the sweat in COVID times, right? It's all remote.
Yeah, that's
so
it.
So the last time we talked, mate, we went through your journey from essentially working in a gym, getting an idea to start a new gym brand, help others to. We were just talking about before we came on air about the whole concept around having what it takes to start a business, and like you just said to me, going from that whole, just surviving, getting the money in, paying the bills, and having that kind of frenetic juggling act to just stay on your feet, which I went through for a number of years actually. So you've done amazing to start transitioning out of that. You're a lot more disciplined and focused than I ever was until recently. But that's a really cool story. So we wanted to get you back on today and sort of re-document where you were at. And I think it was, jog my memory, maybe September or August, October, around there last year. We last spoke, I think, from memory.
Yeah, that was, it might have even been a little, it would have been around then. And that was when the build was starting for the new space that I'm in now. Yeah.
So do you just want to take over?
Yeah,
it was a great chat. It was really inspiring. And do you just want to sort of take over from me so I can get my breath back from the basketball court and sort of explain to the viewers where you were at then and what the journey's been like, what you've done and where you're at now?
Yeah, so last year when we spoke, I was in a 200 square gym, and my main focus was helping mums. So we spoke about Snack Bitch in our last one, about how there's more to being a mum than just making food for your little people all day. So empowering mums basically to take control of their health. And I was really passionate about taking that one step further and helping mums start businesses that they might have been afraid of doing before, or they didn't even know where to start. So I'd kind of, that was what the end of the conversation. And at the start, we talked about Snack Bitch and basically where I'd started from. So I'd been running an Anytime Fitness. I was the manager there. I wanted to buy into the franchise. And then after having my son, I realized it didn't really light me up anymore, and I wanted to support mums better. I started my business.
Why didn't it light you up anymore?
I think I found the gap in the market. So when I was pregnant, no one told me what I could do with training. They all told me that I should just go for a walk. And I was like, I was doing Olympic weightlifting. I was trying to qualify for state titles. I was lifting heavy in the gym. I was training all the time. And I was really I just loved it. And then I got told as soon as I fell pregnant, basically, that I can't do any of that stuff anymore. And it wasn't because you can't do those things. It was because no one knew what you could or couldn't do, because no one wanted to be the case study to find out what you could or couldn't do while they were pregnant. Does that make sense? So there's no research or support around that. And that's where I was like, all right. And so then halfway through my pregnancy, I did my pre and postnatal fitness trainer course. And it was kind of good, but kind of annoying because I was the only pregnant one at the course. So I got used as the demo for everything. But I learned a lot, and I came out of that and I was like, all right. And then after I had Jax, it just didn't seem like there was space for me in the business that I was in before. And I decided that I could see that gap. There was no support for me. I felt really alone in my journey. And I felt like I'm a pretty average, I'm kind of like a lot of other people on the planet. So if I was feeling that, then I know a lot of other people would be feeling that. And I wanted to build a space to support those people.
That's really, really cool. So you want to sort of imbue your lessons and your learnings and kind of transfer or try and come up with some solutions and steps for people to help them from an emotional level through exercise and community.
Yeah, so I have heaps of people around me that love me, and I'm very lucky that I have a big support network, but I felt super alone in my journey. And then you think of women who are single, who don't have anyone to help look after the kid while they go to the gym. They can't afford ridiculous crèche fees. So we built out a program that allowed them to bring the kids with them.
Awesome. And so in terms of, and we'll get back to that, we'll sort of weave our way back to that model in a moment, but what's your actual, for a lot of viewers out there, a lot of people out there, as you can imagine, would like to do what you're doing, and some guys, they'd like to take the reins and start their own business, not have a boss. Obviously, it's not all beer and skittles. It's a difficult journey. You and I both know that. What have been the tangible steps that you've taken in the path? What's the path been like since we last spoke? What have you actually done day to day, and where are you now?
Well, so I was already in an established space, but I wasn't council approved. I didn't have a formal lease. Everything was like on the fly, basically, just in case things failed. And so since then, I've changed my mindset around it, because things will not fail and I will be successful. And then I had to figure out what my own version of success was, rather than just having like, success is this thing and I'm just going to keep going, and then I'm going to get burnt out, and then I'm never going to reach it. I'm going to be disappointed in myself. So I set really tangible goals. And then I basically just sat down with myself and made sure that the numbers worked, and I valued myself more. So my product was quite cheap before COVID last year. And during COVID, it was amazing. We were able to rebrand, which is what we spoke about last time. We were able to rebrand and develop a product that we were really, really proud of. So rather than having a product that just made me money that I was like kind of happy with, I made something that I'm like extremely proud of and that I absolutely love. And I've set a good number on it in regards to the price on it, so that the people who are working with us are as invested as we are with them, rather than the other way around. And so that's what we worked really, really hard on. And then obviously we've moved into the 400 square facility, and we've come up with systems. It's a huge facility. To support, like, it's massive. It's so cool. Yeah.
Jesus. Yeah. It's awesome.
Sometimes I feel like it's a little bit of like I could have probably done this in the 200 square, but it would have been squishy. And it feels really palatial over here. Like, it feels like a big palace. So it's cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
How did you, all the stuff that you sound wise beyond your years, and I'm sure it's through some hardship and challenges, how did you go about learning the stuff you've just been describing to us then about, obviously you've gone and looked at stuff on YouTube, you've talked to people who have done it before you, you've probably got a good mentor or two. How have you immersed yourself, or how have you learnt what you were just describing to us? How do you figure that out? About the whole believing, really committing to a product and all of that, because it's not a normal thing that people are on this journey figure out quickly normally.
Yeah, well, it did take me a while, good 18 months, I guess, or 2 years. I mean, I guess people have those realizations 10 years down the track, but I think that's right. I had this real desire or need to not, my version of failure is having to close the doors on the business. And so I had a massive desire to not fail. So it wouldn't be if I lost money or whatever, but if I had to close the doors on the business for whatever reason that was, whether stress got to me or something happened within the business or someone sued me or something, I couldn't fail. And that was like, and my version of failure is shutting the doors and walking away. So I couldn't walk away. So I have a massive desire to not fail. So that helps. And then the other thing I did was I got on board with Real Movement. So Real Movement is, so Sonny Bill Williams' private coach, Keegan Smith, his strength and conditioning coach, runs Real Movement. And Real Movement basically is a global connective group of coaches. And Keegan has been my mentor through this as well. So I think it was good to have, I'd had business coaches before, but none of them, all of them just said what I wanted to hear or asked me a templated amount of questions. And yes, some of Keegan's questions were templated, and that's why we'd have like a structured call. But he basically just said, like, if this doesn't make you happy, why the fuck are you doing it? And so my last structure of business or classes was like what we'd call Barry's Budget Bootcamp, which is like HIIT classes and Tabata classes and box fit and stuff that was actually serving my clients' injuries because they didn't have a good foundation first. And so if I wanted to retain my clients longer, I have to avoid injury, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So if I wanted to retain my clients longer to make more money, I needed to develop a program that supported that.
Yeah.
So that's where the program came from. A lot of it is the movement methods from Real Movement, Athletic Truth Group, which is Ben Patrick, knees over toes guy, Lucas Aaron, range of strength. They're all these super epic coaches that are programmed and plugged into Real Movement that I have access to those resources. So I did some intensives and I did some courses, and I basically just sat down with myself and got real.
That's how you and I met, through Devin Latoa, when he was doing some work for us last year, and he's doing some other stuff at the moment and just trying some stuff out, which is cool. He's not doing stuff with us at the moment per se, but that's something that was cool to come out of COVID. So I'm going over to Melbourne, lo and behold, when we can either get there, to do my master's in the next couple of years, in law, and COVID inspired me to do that. But see, like, you being part of that group allowed us to meet, and what it taught me was getting out of the normal grind and the normal habitual come to work, do work, go home. It's like putting yourself into different groups and networks. I've really learned that can pay off enormously, but the key is you can't be looking for a tangible, direct, immediate gratification or payoff from those extra things you do. Like you said, you're building this, and we'll get to that soon, this whole new course you are going to do to try it and disseminate more of the information that you've learned and you felt that would have been helpful to you earlier in your journey, albeit you've learned it very quickly. I think it's quite a, it's an extremely valuable behavior to go into groups and communities and watch stuff and networks. It's super, super cool. The other thing I was thinking when you were talking about in your last spiel, so to speak, was you were saying what your version of success, like I was watching something the other day where the speaker was talking about formulating your own idea of success, and that the whole glitz, glam, private jets, all of that, these people sort of think, if I can't be a squadillionaire, then I've failed. Where if you can get to, I think it was 0.8% of people in the US, which is an incredibly wealthy country in a lot of ways. I know they have some extreme poverty too, but that's subject for another day. I think it's 0.8% of people in the US earn over $400,000 a year. That might be a quarterly bonus for a Wall Street guy. But, for the average person, that's a heck of a lot of money. And if you're able to be somewhat sensible, even somewhat sensible in your investing of that amount of money, that's wildly successful. And a lot of people have the ability to earn that much money, or half of that, which can give you a great life. So it's your version of success. And money's, of course, only one part of it as well. It's the passion, the enjoyment day to day. It's too hard. My mentor, John Banks, often says to me, Shane, I've never met someone with a lot of money who set out with their only or predominant goal to have a lot of money or to make a lot of money. You can't think like that. It's too abstracted. It's ultimately only a store of value. So if you just think, I want this thing.
See you, buddy. See ya. No, I'm good. I don't want to come see Mama. Yeah, I'm just on a call with my friend. Do you want to head off now? All right. See you, buddy. Yeah, you can take that. Off you go. Bumblebee's on the desk. He wants to take Bumblebee with him. See you, mate. Come on, let's go. Yeah, that's Bumblebee. All right. See ya. Okay, bye. See, working mum, so much fun. But yeah, no, I think
it's great. It's almost like it was choreographed
yeah.
to display your humanity. I like it. Yeah, so I mean, it's interesting.
Now, the good thing about
to think that you go.
Yeah, so Real Movement have just branched off and developed a Real Money Club and a 3 business club. And basically it's helping coaches get to where I am now. And then when we start making the money, it teaches us how to invest it, so we have longevity of money. So it's super cool.
That's amazing. Yeah. That's another thing. And we talk to our staff here about that. It's just like, getting it is only part of it, and what you do with it can have an astronomically diverse set of outcomes.
Yeah, well,
like once you've got that money.
Yeah, in Australia, 97% of the population spends 115% of what they earn.
I like that.
Yeah. So I've just set out to be that 3%. So
I think one of the wealthiest guys I know is just retired with all the stuff going on COVID, was a airline steward for about 40 years, and he lost money in the stock market and got into property. And it's just, went and saw him in his commercial building during in between our 2 lockdowns last year, and it's just extraordinary what he's done. It's actually really cool, just through. And he used to, on his days off, go and research, and he used his essentially time in the air to meet all these sort of all these luminaries and learn from people. He's, I think, in his early 60s, or maybe about 60 now, and it's an incredible display of what you can do with even only modest income if you turn your mind to and take extra effort once you've got that money, what to do with it. And that's, sorry, just to wrap that up, is like, say if you can earn 300 or 400 or 200K, that's a huge amount of money. And then on top of that, if you can actually invest that wisely and even be moderately successful, you can free up the most critical, valuable resource of all, which is, of course, time. That can
like, even if you
only
invested 1% of that, that's $20,000 you're investing, and that's only 1% of your overall income, and you can turn that into so much. But
yes, exactly.
Yeah, so my version of success, I've had this vision just replaying in my head now. We sold a property just after COVID, our COVID lockdowns in like July, August last year. And we bought another property just behind it. And basically the guy sold it to us really cheap because he just didn't want to have to do any work on it. And my partner, his family own an earth moving business. So we've cut a massive house pad on the top of the hill. We've cut this big driveway in. We're building a big dam. We're doing it all for next to nothing, just for fuel. So it's costing us absolutely zero. And one of my clients has actually gifted me her old Queenslander house that she doesn't want anymore. So we're just picking it up off her property and putting it on our property and renovating it. I know, the gym's great. It's the best thing I've ever done. And yeah, so I got a free house from my gym. It's great. And so we're doing that. And I have this vision in my head of me sitting up in this old Queenslander. So have you ever seen any old style Queenslander houses in Australia? Like back when they're made out of timber. Anyway, this house is over 100 years old, but in Queensland, it's called a Queenslander, but in Queensland, Australia, they're like prized possessions. They're like jewels to have because they've got really big ceilings and they're beautiful, big, thick pine flooring planks, and they're just like so beautiful, and they're so well built. They're all built out of hardwood. So she's just giving us her house because she was just going to demolish it and build a new one. So we've got that, and I have this vision of me sitting on the deck of it with like a hot drink, with my laptop in front of me in a big jumper and a messy bun, working. And that to me is my version of success, because I don't have to go into work if I don't want to, and I can just stay in my home. Yeah, and my version of success is being able to just, if my kid wanted something like, say, a motorbike, which comes back to the next conversation, but if my son wanted to buy a motorbike, I have the ability to just go and buy him a motorbike and not have to save for the whole year to get him a motorbike, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah, so not like massive extravagant purchases like a new house or a new car, just a motorbike, $2-3 grand, like to be able to just go and get that just and buy that for him.
Having the money to do reasonably modest things to enjoy your life without having to really worry too much, without being extravagant or showboating, just to be able to do stuff. And the thing is, it is harder and harder and harder compared to, say, I'm nearly 40. So when I growing up in the 80s and 90s, doing stuff as a family, for example, was pretty cheap. I mean, it didn't cost a lot. It might have been, I don't know, $6 for a movie ticket for a kid, or maybe $4 or something, and $8 for the parents. But now it's just, you go to the movies. I went to the movies, I don't know, sometime last year. It was the first time for like 20 years. And it was like, for two of us, it was like some popcorn and a Coke and a couple of tickets. So there'll be $83, please. It's like, how the hell can an average family, a normal, even a reasonably accomplished family, even afford to do that? Even if both parents are working, it's just, things are bloody expensive. So giving yourself a chance to, I remember my old boss said when I was starting my own firm, and he said, look, you've got to really earn, a couple of $100K a year to have in Auckland these days, which is the most expensive part of New Zealand. Other parts of New Zealand, not so much, although they're burgeoning somewhat during the whole lockdown with, competition and prices and everything. But I mean, generally speaking, you've got to have a reasonable amount of income to have any kind of disposable income these days, with how expensive housing and everything is. So it's become a real problem here. It's a massive problem. So, if you have the means and the ability, and you're lucky enough, like you are, to use your connections and your nous, really, that's really entrepreneurism to the fore. You've found your own house, a cheap section, and someone to really put it there for you. And it's pretty absurd, really. But that's just a really cool kind of anecdote about using your wares to try and put yourself in the best possible position that you can.
Yeah, and so my father-in-law used to move houses before he started his civil earthworks business, and we just used a connection of his that ironically just walked into their work the other week. So we were going through these people and we couldn't track down who his old boss was, and we couldn't figure it out, and he couldn't quite remember his last name properly, or the business name has changed and stuff like that. And then the guy walked into his work to borrow a bobcat. And then Jake, my partner, was talking to him and he's like, oh, I'll move the house for you. So now he's going to move the house for us. Crazy.
There's you all over.
Yeah. But yeah, like it's been really good. And there's lots of things that I did at the start of my business where lots of people will be like, oh, I'll just go get a loan and I'll get $80,000 worth of equipment, and then I'll get this like computer system and I'll buy all this new stuff and I'll do all these things and then I'll start my business. Whereas I went, all right, if I go to the football club, so that's where I started on a deck out front of a rugby league club, and I work in the bar every home game, and I do the strength and conditioning or fitness training for the boys once a week. Can I please have unlimited access to the fields and the club area to train my clients? Yeah, no problem. Cool. So I did that. So everything that I got in my pocket was mine, and I just traded for time. And then further on from that, my bookkeeper traded PT sessions, my cleaner traded PT sessions, everything. So that I didn't, and as I earned money, I bought more equipment. So my first goal was to buy just one rig and more medicine balls and like skipping ropes. And then at one point I only had 16 squares of flooring out of 200 squares because all I could afford was 16 squares. So I only bought 16 squares of flooring for just the weight area. So my weights didn't get damaged, so they'd last longer. And then eventually I ordered the other however many squares I needed to fill out the gym floor, and I ordered more equipment. And then Keegan just randomly was deciding to pack his life up and move overseas, and he gave me that $10,000 worth of his old gym gear. Wow. And so I have a full set of barbells, plate weights, dumbbells, and everything like that. And I've just slowly accumulated the rest from there. And then when we came into this place to establish my 400 square facility, I ended up with only with a $20,000 overdraft, and that was to cover wages and a few other things like my first month's rent and stuff, and just to have as my cash flow if I got stuck.
Just for anyone watching, before anyone thinks Jess is the sort of person that would fall down a sewer drain and come up with $1 million, she's actually a really very giving person, and makes a huge amount of effort to put herself in the right place at the right time, does a lot of stuff without any expected payoff. And that's what happens to, in my experience, clients of mine, people like Jess, who seem to be able to extract or get these things to leverage. A, they're looking for them, and B, I know I'm right saying that you've done a lot. You help as many people, and you have that feeling. People that do that the universe tends to give that back to them. People who are going around holding on to everything they've got and always looking at a short-term, transactional nature of any type of interaction. These things aren't falling out of the sky for these people, or they may, but then they'll go away because the universe kind of says, look, you don't deserve this. You're not really giving a lot of what you've been given back. So I know I'm right in saying that, and that's, I'm sure that's been your experience.
Yeah, so we've done, there's lots of things. So in the last chat that we had, I just said that I've been treating this whole experience as an apprenticeship. So I know that the more grinding I do, the less payoff I'm going to get at the start. But if I stay consistent over a period of 4 or 5 years, and I work hard every single day, that I know at the end of the 5 years, the payoff is going to be greater than what it was in the first year. And so I know that every year it will keep improving. And for me, we're not making oodles of money in the business, but the business is running. And we're actually making an impact in the community. So so I'm the main strength and conditioning coach for the NYU women. We don't charge for that. And I've spent every Monday night on my crippled leg, on my crutches in the middle of a soccer field with my son and my partner. Bear with me because I can't drive myself at all. Basically coaching these women because they're women who are, most of them are mums who want to feel active and healthy again. So that lights me up. That aligns with who I am. So I'm happy to go and help those people for free if I know that even though those people aren't spending money in my business, I know that I've impacted another squad of 50 women. So that leads me to my overall goal of impacting 5,000 women.
Yeah.
So,
and aside from all that though, benevolence, which is genuine benevolence, the profile you're getting out of that is huge anyway. It's just exposure where otherwise there's a space, there's a void, and it can't. And over time, in terms of entrepreneurship being a marathon, not a sprint. Over time, that you can't help but win from that strategy.
And like
I was given a really cool book. You go.
You could go. I just said the girls are really amazing. Like, yeah. You go.
I was given a really cool book. What was it called to read? I'm trying to think who gave it to me, and I remember exactly. Oh, here it is. Here, bear with me. Could have let you go after all that. Where is it? Chop wood, carry water. You heard of that?
No.
It's a super cool book, and one of the metaphors the guy uses in the book is a massive tree, and how deep and how long it takes for the massive tree to plant its roots before it actually grows. If you think about a business like that, if you think about the beautiful shape the tree eventually takes in the leaves and how beautiful it looks, but the amount of time that went into actually creating the structure for all the the greenery, obviously being the metaphor for money and exposure and all that, and being able to give back and provide for staff and create jobs and all of those good things. And I was walking/running in the Domain yesterday, easing myself back into my fitness regime, and it's incredible going up through a place called Lovers Walk in the Auckland Domain. There's a side of the walkway which has kind of been carved out, and you can see, so cool. I'm going to take a photo of it next time I go there. You can see where the ground actually stops and then where the roots are. And it's like ×3 of the actual already huge tree.
Wow.
All coming underground from literally for like 50 meters each side of this enormous tree. And I thought, man, that is a really, really cool analogy. And I wouldn't have thought of that unless I'd read that really, really excellent book. And that's what, when you're doing, when there's a lot of 20-year overnight success stories in businesses. And there's a lot of clients of mine who I'll meet, they might be 34 and you think, God, how the hell are they earning this and doing this and have all these properties and set up charities and doing all this stuff? And you talk to them and they've usually been selling like lemonade off a lemonade stand since they were 7 and doing their mum and dad's, accounts since they were 13. And they've got this incredible story where they went through the formative years of their life living really like a young adult, and they're 30. So they've been 25 years business minded. And you see people a bit more like myself who only really got passionate in the last 2 years. And it might take me till I'm 60, but that's cool. I met with my client, Adrian Kenny, the other day, who started up Green Acres, a really well-known lawn mowing franchise in New Zealand. He's got another cleaning business now, and he's incredibly successful and, gets up and goes to the gym every morning at 5. He looks like he's about my age. He probably looks younger than me, actually. And he's passionate, he's into it. And it's just like, really cool, but it takes a long time, and a lot of it's not glamorous.
Yeah, so my partner's dad, so my father-in-law Dave and his wife Alison, they're pretty they play like their experiences play a big part in my experiences, because I know that Dave started his business going around and following all the rodeos, like the bull riding rodeos, and he's like an ex-wood chopping champion. And what he would do is he would enter the competitions to win money, and then he would take his bobcat and he would clean up all the arenas after the shows. And he literally used to drive around in this unregistered car, and he'd awesome. He did have no money, but he just made a go of it. And now they're like this insanely large, Jake, my partner, saved the workshop, like between 3 months, they saved him like $40,000 in stock that they didn't need to buy. And I was like, that's how much people earn in 1 year, and you saved them that. Yeah. So think of what their turnover would be like. And I know that took him, Jake's 25, and he was doing that before he met Jake. And so, and then, my mother-in-law's just, she's bought a Mercedes. Everyone's like, oh, I'd love to have money like that. And I just think, well, they just worked their asses off for 30 years. Like, if the lady wants to buy a Mercedes, let her buy a Mercedes. Like,
damn right.
Yeah. And like, so
Yeah.
like people would be like, oh, they just kind of shot up. And I'm like, no, they didn't. They did not shoot up.
Like some people do, but often they don't keep it anyway.
Yeah.
And the other thing as well is that it's a much more convenient narrative for people's ego to think that someone got lucky, or they ripped someone off, or they come from money. It's a lot more convenient for people's egos, and they're the most vociferous ones, particularly on social media, expressing that. But at the end of the day, if you're going to get anywhere, you need to develop a really thick skin, and you just really end up not giving two shits about when anyone wants to opine about you, particularly if they don't even know your real narrative and where you've come from and where you're trying to go. Like, who cares ultimately?
Yeah, like, so the same for me. Like I said in the last chat that we had, that I didn't take a wage for a very long time from my own business, because I just wanted to be able to build the business, not have any debt associated to it, and be able to walk out if I needed to. And obviously my passion and my feeling for having a purpose and helping people has taken over that. And now I don't really care. I will just keep going and going and going. But yeah, like, there's all sorts of motivators that keep you going. But lots of people say to me all the time that, oh, you're so lucky that you've got this gym and this is great. And you're so lucky you have this landlord. And yes, my landlord has been a very pivotal person in my journey as well, in regards to supporting me. So side story about him, last time we spoke, he told me not to worry about the water bill because he hadn't billed me. And I was like, how about we just not do it? Then the solar panels, and then the rent, and like, don't have a lease, no bond, all that kind of stuff. He was so good. He gave me the last month over there completely free to get me to move out. But he called me Wednesday and said I had to have my whole business moved out by Sunday. So it was all systems go that week to get over here so he could have that other shed back. But when we were coming to the completion of this building, no one wanted to give a fitness business a loan. So I ended up with my overdraft after we ended up in here. But in the stages coming into it, I needed $22,000 for my flooring, because it's obviously a lot of flooring here in 400 squares. And I spoke to Dennis and said, I want to get it done while it's being built, so that I don't have to then do the fit out afterwards and then be stuck in limbo for a week or two till everything gets installed. And so we got the walls painted and everything the way I wanted. I paid for all that. They just got it done while it was getting built. And I turned to Dennis and he ordered all my flooring for me. He let me go and pick all the colors out. And then he said, how about we just pay it off in your rent over the next 5 years? So like, he's a massive part of it. But at the same time, previous to that, when we bought our first property, we lived in a caravan till we built the shed ourselves by hand. And I didn't take a wage through that time, because we just made do without it so that we could build the business. And so we just continue to keep putting back into the business. And now we're able to manipulate the business to be used to our best advantage. So lots of people are like, oh, you're so lucky and you must be doing so well. I'm like, no, we actually are just like, with the move and me not working now, doing any of the coaching sessions or anything like that, all of our staff have got our whole team has gone on to permanent part-time positions. All my wages have tripled. We're putting new staff, team members on and all that kind of stuff. So my costs are back up again and I'm not making a huge profit, but it doesn't really matter because I still have the gym doors open and I'm still providing jobs and I'm still providing a place where people can come and get healthy. So overnight, you're lucky, you're so great overnight is really, I just disregard it.
And what, before we wrap up, what can you tell everybody a little bit more about what we talked about before we came on air about the program you're trying to weave together to disseminate or to give away some of these teachings or learnings, I should say, to other people that want to follow in your footsteps in the gym / fitness and wellbeing industry?
Yeah, so when I was at Anytime, I noticed that the coaches the PTs don't really get looked after. So they're just thrown into the gym. They have no clients, they have no leads, and then they're asked to pay a bond and then they're asked to pay rent. Sometimes say Good Life over here is I think close to $300 a week. So if you think of how many sessions they have to be doing at a competitive rate to match up with the other or beat the other trainers in the gym, that's a lot of clients they have to train before they make enough money to pay rent. And then then they've got to take money on
Yeah.
top of that. Like they're going to make more money on top of that. And so I believe that coaches should be hired on a split system with a sliding scale, or they should be hired as a permanent part-timer or a full-timer and be given the entitles of like everybody else where you go any other job. Like if you go and work at the supermarket and work the same casual hours every week, you would be offered a permanent part-time or a full-time job after you've worked there for 12 months. I feel the same should be for coaches. So I want to build out programs that help develop that. But you can't offer people that unless they're worth it in your business. And so I want to help coaches basically either start their own business or even just break through the industry. A lot of us come out and do our Cert 3 and 4. We actually have no idea how to gain clients, market ourselves, personal brand ourselves, how we should be getting paid. Like nothing. We know nothing.
None.
And so
law is exactly the same. Law is exactly the same. We have the identical problem. And some of our guys are getting really good now. And I like to think I'm passing on some learnings to them and showing them the way. But like you come into a firm and you can only earn a really meager kind of wage for considering how much training you've done, how long you've been at uni, and how much training on the job as a junior lawyer. It's a steep learning curve. And then to think that you can, because the model is has always been the way it was, and because it's so top heavy, in a way it's a kind of pyramid scheme. And the only ones that can, be well paid are us owners, because we've got control of the purse strings, and it's been manipulated so that these people will grind away for a couple of years, and then the firms have the temerity to think like, oh, it's so bad we lose all these juniors overseas, or they just don't stay loyal. But a lot of it is that there's no attempt to try and show them how they can actually earn if they want to, and a lot of them don't want to make the effort, and that's fine, that's their choice. They can earn their wage and the business works really well. But if they want to earn more money, they need to actually follow in your footsteps of bringing work in, and then you can give them a percentage of that. Then they start to see how much money you actually need to bring in the door for any of that to fall out the bottom to even me as the owner, who gets 100% of the earnings of the business. If I'm going to give away 20%, say, or 15% of a fee, and you bring in a $5,000 fee, you think and it stops people thinking in this example here, oh, every dollar that comes in. I used to think when I was a junior lawyer as well, oh, the firm charged $5,000 plus just the bill is $7,000. Well, actually, the fee was only $5,000. The just GST and all that doesn't count. I have to pay tax on that, so it ends up being 67 or whatever percent of that. And then you start thinking, shit, actually these people aren't making as much as you think. And then it sort of makes it more real about how hard it is for the owners to actually get that work in. So I don't think anyone's right or wrong. I don't think the owners are wrong for potentially being quite, stingy with, the purse strings in that way. But at the same time, if you need to give, show the way to the junior people or the less experienced people in your business, if they want to, follow your footsteps, there is a method and a pathway set out for them so they can do it. And then they get an idea of how challenging it is, and everyone's more enlightened and on the same journey. But the old model, it sounds like your industry, well, I know that from Devon, with his experiences in certain gyms, that it's not, there's no real communication or interlinking between all the different moving parts of that business. So not everyone is winning. And at the end of the day, I'll finish with this, Jess, what you're talking about, how they don't show the trainers and all that. The gym, the owners lose as well. It's not just the trainers that lose by not being made, getting access to, provided they do certain things, a bigger part of the pie. The owners lose too, because they're an critical part of their brand. I know you guys can make a lot of money out of classes and memberships and all that stuff. I get that. But the trainers is a huge thing to get people. Like, I haven't hardly been to the gym at all since Devon moved gyms, because Les Mills is down the road, and that was great. And it's because I clicked particularly with him. I liked him. It's a big thing to have someone in your personal space. He moves to another gym. It's 2K away. Doesn't fit my lifestyle. So I think that a lot of industries, just to make my example on this rant, it's not just your industry. It's my industry. It's probably heaps of industries. It's like all of us. Yeah. It's real common.
Yeah, so for me, it's like I want to build out the course for the coaches, like the PTs, basically. We call them coaches. So they've got the ability to understand their values, identify the problems they want to solve, the people they want to help, how to brand that, how to sell to those people, how to retain those clients, and then how to value their product around that and package their product up and then scale it. And then the other thing I want to develop is a plug and play internship. So we're running internships here at the moment. So all of our coaches that are coming in with us are coming in with the ability to learn how to start their own business if they wanted to. But if they want to stay on, there's 2 jobs offered at the end.
Wow.
So
cool.
we're giving them the knowledge to be able to go, all right, like I think I just want to become an online coach. And these are all the things and tools that Jess has given me. And I'm going to give them support following on. And then I want to develop this program to give to other gyms to better support their coaches that are coming on, but also make sure that the coaches that are coming on are the ones they want to come on. Because a lot of the time you'll also hire a coach and they'll come in and make all these promises about bringing clients and they don't. And then you end up having that changeover of coaches, which affects your client base that you already have in the gym, because then they see the turnover of coaches or they really like that coach. So they'll leave with that coach. So you've got to make sure that you're making solid decisions with your coaches, because it impacts more than just you and your business. It impacts all the bodies and all the moving parts in that business. So if I can develop programs that people can click and play into their gym that goes, all right, we're going to run this and this is what the employer needs to do and this is what the employee is going to do. And then at the end, they've both learned and are able to discover coaches that want to stay. And if not, they've just helped make the industry better, then everyone's happy. That's in my ideal world.
And what you're doing is exactly what I just attempted to explain in my long-winded way, and I hadn't thought it through before it came on, but it's exactly what I was actually trying to explain. It's that it's opening up the channels of communication. It's putting everything out there in a transparent way so everybody can see what person A, B, C, D, E in this whole mix, from owner down to the person who cleans the toilets. How much is each person putting in this business and how much are they getting out? And if I want to move from rung C to A or from F to C, what steps did that person do? And I was explaining to one of my juniors the other day, and we've got a great culture here in terms of helping each other. It wasn't the way in the firm I worked in before I had my own business, explaining to the juniors that, look, you might not want to teach the person who's just come in how to do this shitty job because it's annoying and they'll probably fuck it up a few times before they get it. And in the short run, you've actually just have to spend more time, right? But if you don't teach them to do the shitty stuff that you don't want to do, how are we going to get them doing that without you supervising them eventually so you can get off and do more profitable work so I can pay you more? And when you put it that way, their eyes open and they're like, oh shit, is that how it works? It's like, yes, every single thing you can pass on and teach that someone else can do to take that burden away from you so we can go on and chase more, bigger, better clients with bigger issues or more complex issues. Every person in the business, the skills improve and they're building their own house, so to speak, that the whole business can make more money. And then we can hire more people and it just goes on and on and on. If they're not aware of that, how the hell are they going to adjust their behavior to think in an entrepreneurial way? So like you just said, they may not at the end of the course actually want to be an owner. They may go, you know what, the bargain for me is not that great. You make X, but you have all the stress and you have to deal with people plus all the numbers. You know what's not for me. But they may go, actually, here's a better avenue than where I'm at the moment, and I'm prepared to make that level of sacrifice and learn those skills. So it's a super cool idea. I love it. It would work in any kind of business, to be honest, not just yours. So start there, but you know, it's a great idea. And
it's like giving, and for me, my ultimate goal would be to help moms make that change, like a risk that they've wanted to take for a while, but they don't have the tools or they're not really sure even where to start. So that would be my ideal, but I'm happy to help anyone. All of my interns at the moment are blokes. So that's different because we don't have that many blokes in our business. So that's been interesting, and like basically learning what their expectations are from the industry. We've been educating them around pelvic floor health and ab separation, which has been very eye-opening for them. But I know that if they learn those things, they're going to better support other women. So it all flows on for me. So it's definitely, I think I'm really excited to finally build it out, do all my qualification calls with the people who are going to be doing the course and running through our first batch of people on the course. So I'm super excited for that. Amazing.
All right, well, we'll wrap it up now, but we'll have to get you back in another 6 months. And then God knows what you would have done by then. How many more houses you would have stolen? Next time, why don't you go and find a whole commercial building and then get someone to give you that and then start another 400 square meter gym? Nothing would surprise me.
Maybe.
All right, lovely to see you.
You too.
Yeah, so we'll keep in touch, of course, and we'll see you maybe in what month is it? I lose. COVID skewed everything. Is it February?
Yeah, it's
February. Yeah,
February. Yeah.
yeah. So maybe
Yeah.
in like September, August. We'll
Yeah,
see you
that
then.
sounds
Hopefully, we're
good.
not on lockdown.
Yeah.
We'll see you again. All right, mate.
All right.
See
See
ya.
ya.
Bye.